Welcome again to the second session. I would like to reiterate my thanks to Mr. Barakat, Charles Ahmed Troudi, and Mr. Khadri for their presentations about reparation programs and for the contribution on how to develop advocacy strategy on reparation. Now, what are the mechanisms that can be used in order to help the Victims Association develop advocacy strategy on reparation? What are the mechanisms that can be used? Thank you. Although I did not heard what Mr. Rida said, but you know, these are recorded on the internet and they can be followed. I would like to thank the people in charge of the ICTJ who are helping us, we as victims, to acquire knowledge and to acquire methodology that can help us to succeed. When you speak about strategy, what do you mean by strategy? Strategy means what are our goals? We are looking for something good, regardless of our orientation and sensitiveness. We would like all the problems to be solved, and we would like to take our share in this life, our share in dignity, our share in bread, our share of happiness. And you know, the politicians speak even about some speak about happiness. They would like their people to live in happy. So what we want is how to live happy, how to achieve this strategy. Who are we? Who are we? When we say we are the victims are the goal and the target. You know, the target, we are the target, is we are like a child. A good state, the good welfare state, now it's called the ruler, but in the past they used to be called the welfare provider. You know, the ruler has to listen to everybody. He has to listen to the elite, to different social categories, and we must be able to listen so that we can learn. You learn to the media. You listen to the specialists in the experts in economy, etc. You listen to children, even the children to kindergarten, as well as the youth, the elderly, the old people, etc. I just said that I like the young people, and I hope that they do like also the elderly. Apologies if sometimes I take too much of my time, too much of your time. I'm sorry, we are exhausted, we have been tortured, we have been hit several times under Ben Ali and Bourguiba, and now we have not been treated justly. So why do you want us to lead a miserable life, a sad life? Why do you want us to walk bare feet? Barefooted? Why don't they want us to enjoy our dignity? Why they would like us to live like slaves? We would like to reach a society of freedom, a society where freedom prevails and where social justice and happiness for everybody equally prevail, with no exception whatsoever. Every single individual of the people, the 7 million, you know, those who made mistakes and who didn't, the literate and the illiterate, those who detained diplomas and those who don't, male and female alike, children, youths, elderly. We must think about providing him with a sound life, a happy life, and a healthy life until he passes or she passes away. Sometimes, until we die, we are not sure of our future. You know, tomorrow, we, the elderly people, we can be sick and we don't have enough means to treat ourselves and we may die. The ruling people, aren't they able to think about death? It's the way of all flesh. Bourguiba did not respect human rights, but at the end, he had to leave. You remember also Mzali. He lived in exile, just like Bourguiba lived in exile. Ahmed Ben Salah, Ben Ali, if he had respected the League of Human Rights, if he had respected the union if he did not think about his ego and the ego of his in-laws, he would have lived with dignity. We are seeking dignity for the victims and for the rulers as well. We do not want to cast a blow against their dignity, but when you are denuded of everything, you rise up. So what I'd like to reiterate again, and apologies for taking too much time, and I have my drawbacks. But, you know, elderly people repeat themselves so without noticing that, and we learn from the youth. But bear with me, please. We have to understand there is the psychology of the governor and the psychology of those who are governed, and people in this life, whether in the past, in the present, or in the future, is governed by his ego. And ego may be misleading. Egocentrism may be egoism. Selfishness may be misleading. Everybody wants to think about themselves, about getting rich, about acquiring a lot of wealth, and don't think about everybody else. Whereas the world, Earth, contains enough wealth for everybody. You know, teach me how to catch a fish. We don't want aid. We'd like people to work. We'd like the young people to work and have the right to education and the right to health. And this can only happen with transitional justice. And transitional justice does not concern only the victims, but we must have a strategy. We have to agree on the strategy. What is the problem? Where does the problem lie? The problem lies in the fact that we do not accept each other. We reject each other. We have to tell ourselves, shouldn't think about ourselves. We need to think about Ms. Logantri, for instance, about that lady, about my brother, Mr. Adel Hamid, although we do not belong to the same party. And I tell myself, maybe he has part of the truth and share of the truth which I don't have. And therefore, I have to be modest and say, I'm number one, I'm the best, I know everything. There is no one who knows everything. There is no one like Antar or Shamshum. Everyone has to consider himself as being weak, and this is for the religious people. Even those who are not religious know that we are weak people, and we have to be humble and modest. And if we are not humble and modest, and if we don't know how to harbor each other, we will not succeed. So therefore, the problem, our problem, or our weakness lies in the fact that lack of respect for each other. Yesterday, unfortunately, some regretful things took place yesterday, and they do not really appreciate the effort they made by the ICTJ. Mr. Karim, although he's absent, I am sorry, but things like that shouldn't have happened. People who work should be encouraged and should be thanked for that. You know, I may make mistakes, but at the same time, we have to be thankful for the people who work. We will make progress according to our knowledge, according to our capacity. Everyone, you know, has to reach out for the victim, and therefore we need, in addition to strategies, we need certain tactics. There is a working program. There is a strategy. There are tactics that need to be followed. But there is the long-term goal. We all agree on that. Everyone wants to say, I would like to live a good life. You cannot live in a good life unless the whole society lead a good life, unless you think about everybody else. And therefore, there must be, you know, sharing of wealth. And you have to give away to others, whether you are an individual or a party. My party is not the center of everything. I'm with the people, and I'm with the people who, you know, who even disagree with me. I have to, you know, we have to communicate with them. We have to weave ties of a friendship with everybody, whether partisans or non-partisans, whether they defend human rights or not. We shouldn't be criticizing ourselves and say that the liberals are this and that way, the partisans are this and that. All these wars have to cease. We need to build peace in the country, because we have just lived left an era of tyranny if we do not get rid of this culture, which was disseminated not only during Bourguiba, but it has been disseminated for centuries and centuries. The history of mankind is a history of tyranny, and then we had religion, and then Hammurabi religion, and then we had the Magna Carta, and then we had the Magna Carta. The elite in the UK addressed the king and said that the authority has to be guided by the law. Then we had Umar al-Khattab. So all religions were seeking to find the problem to solution, because whenever we have people together, there will be wars, just like people, for survival and the survival of the fittest, and the strong shall devour the weak. If we don't know how to put an end to this war, and we don't know how to build peace between us, and we don't know how to organize coalitions and alliances, we shall fail. I think that what we notice, unfortunately, each person is thinking about himself. Mr. Karim yesterday was telling me, you are not a progressist person. We need to defend the transitional justice. I told him, no, I am a victim like you. We may differ. I mean, I like him very much, and I like everybody, believe me. But he doesn't like me. Why? Why don't you like X or Y? I heard something about Abd Hamid, that he's a traitor, and the problem is how to unite and to be united, and by efforts and overcoming differences. And we need to respect the freedom of each individual. These tactics and the strategy, our strategy. And we need
Thank you, Mr. Hamda. We highly appreciate your intervention. I apologize for my lengthy intervention. We would like to appreciate each personal contribution, however small that contribution may be. We have to encourage people, and we have to really exhibit respect for each other. Thank you. Thank you. I apologize for my lengthy intervention. You asked to talk about the marginalized regions, so you have the floor, madam. Hello, everyone. I would like to talk. My name is Amira Nimri. My name is Amira Nimri. I would like to talk about my region, the Kasserine region. The Kasserine region. Everybody knows Kasserine and the suffering that we have been through. Not only Kasserine, but the inland areas, unlike the coastal areas that are provided with all utilities and facilities. My area is about 540,000 people. We have about 15 provinces. If we tap into our own natural resources, we can achieve self-sufficiency. We have alfalfa, we have oil, and when you move from one delegation to another, or one county to another, you will find enough territory that would suffice to all the youth. They could work. We, however developed Tunisia is, we remain as an agricultural country with a lot of knowledge about agriculture, and we can focus on agriculture and achieve self-sufficiency, and we can be the basket for the entire country. But this has been overlooked. Since the Ben Ali and since the Bourguibian regime, we have been marginalized. We are still persecuted. The revolution has not changed anything. On the contrary, the situation has worsened. The revolution disrupted us. We haven't noticed anything. All we reaped from the revolution are wounds and blood. Many of I come from Kasserine with regards to the bread events and Black Thursday. We have sacrificed 300 martyrs. I'm not referring to the Islamists, to the left-leaning militants, because I don't have a clue about their number. I just want to say that with the Black Thursday and the bread incidents, the youngest is now 54 years old, and these people are completely down. According to our grandparents, when we were at war, they would throw the food from the helicopters and planes, because in Tella and Kasserine we have very severe winters and it's very cold. Sometimes when you open the door, your house is inundated with snow. So we try to use candles to heat the canals for water and the tap, in order to heat the tap to get water. But after the revolution we were hoping to develop, but unfortunately nothing has changed. We have reaped nothing from the revolution, nothing, absolutely nothing. As previously mentioned, if we provide youngsters to use the land that we have a prickly pear, and we have alfalfa, and we have phosphate, and our soil has a good level of salinity, and saffron is a major plant. We need to be considered every now and then, because we in Kasserine can achieve self-sufficiency, and we can become the basket, the basket of the entire country. We need to sterilize the microphone for health reasons. In the name of God, the most beneficent and most merciful, I'd like to comment on what Amira has just said. She is my colleague in the National Commission of the Dictatorship Victims, presided by Trudy. With regards to what Amira has said, that the revolution, we reaped only blood and misery from the revolution, and it also worsened the situation and compounded our misery. I do not agree with her, because thanks to revolution we have freedom of expression. When I say Qais Said is wrong, or he shouldn't have done this or that, I have no fear. Under before the revolution, if I said something about Zain al-Abidin Ben Ali, I would have been busted even before I finish my speech. There are many upsides to the revolution apart from the freedom of expression. This is only appreciated by those who have been through suffering and frustration. The social situation is not good. The high cost of living, unemployment, of course. The situation economically worsened after the revolution for many reasons, but I do concur with her that yes, Tunisia is rich with its resources, and we have the best climate in the world, and we have a strategic position, and we have lots of resources that make us a rich country. But the question that I want to ask, why aren't we a rich country? For Mr. Karim, who spoke about happiness, he wants happiness to be among the entire people, politicians, ordinary people. This can only be in heaven. We are not in a heavenly living, we are in an earthly living. Yesterday there was talk about Bolivia. I'd like to ask you a simple question. Which is the best country in the world? There is no best country in the world. Each country has its upsides and downsides. China, no, perfection is impossible to achieve. And the absolute happiness is on heaven, not on earth. So we try to be as close as possible to justice, but in the absence of justice, the situation grows out of control. Probably you have on your mind a happy place. We would like to join that place. How do we achieve justice? Justice, happiness would be through justice, and justice would be through reparation. And how does reparation play out? Reparation has two sides, actually. There's material and moral prejudice. What will be the priority to repair here? Together, that's quite difficult. We hope the state would consider both reparations. But if we deal with the material reparation more than the moral reparation, because the victims are struggling with their daily bread, just to avoid these, then let's come back to the topic. Reparation is in the report of the final report of TDC, and all the output is there. As agreed yesterday and the day before, and today, the report is available. The specialized criminal chambers are available. Everything is there. But we need to enforce these mechanisms. Reparation after the publication of the TDC's final report. How victims' associations and alliances, how would they make it possible to expedite enforcement of these reparation decisions? There's a saying that goes, you want something, I want something, and God will have his say. I asked Mr. Ayeshi Hamami, a list has been published, and why are we waiting for? The law really is clear. The law is clear how to carry out reparation. The law provides for reconciliation. Where are things disrupted? I'll just give you, Mr. Abdelhamid earlier has always referred to the 10th of December move. This is one of the mechanisms to expedite enforcement of reparation. Mr. Hamda referred to unifying efforts. You referred to how the administrative court should be bound by a specific deadline in case there is any recourse to it for appeal or for any other recourse. So the constitutional body has issued its reparation decisions and the reparation decisions. Now, the issue is how to implement these reparation decisions. So, are there mechanisms that are likely to expedite enforcement of these reparation decisions? How will we achieve reparation? It could be collectively or partly. I read some aspects about law. there is a jurisprudential rule that is reparation should be provided partially. For the revolutions wounded, they obtained each 6,000 dinars as an initial installment. Therefore, reparation can be used to really calm people down, and then we will proceed to the remaining possibilities. If you are going, once the fund for dignity is opened, we can deduct the amounts that have been granted as advance payment. For instance, how to open the dignity fund, how to start the dignity fund and inject the 10 billion dinars, how to really activate it. By virtue of the law, if the country is respectful of the law, we have TDC that is chaired by Ben Sedrine. She provided a list of victims that need to be published in the National Official Gazette. Now, how to really activate and implement those reparation decisions through sit-ins. So one of the mechanisms would be protest in any form. So if the law has not been enforced, we can make recourse to other tools like protests and sit-ins.
Thank you very much for the opportunity that you have given us. We'd like to thank you very much for that. I'd like to thank you for, with regard to the strategy for the advocacy to develop strategies in reparation, the mechanisms and the combating means that have been used by the victims to speed up the reparation program. I have noticed, and we have come to agree, that the rulers cannot give these rights or grant these rights without us exerting pressure on them. So I think today the best mechanism that to speed up the reparation program, the best, and to solve the problem of the victims, regardless of their issues, requires, first of all, a sound mechanism and which spare the country problems and will preserve the stability of the country, and to ensure the success of the victims must be given priority. The president, the prime minister, the speaker must set up a program and sit together and said the transitional justice file has to be examined again and not go only to the Nahda people or to the young people who actually took part in the revolution or in the demonstration of the bread riots, etc., and who were aged only 15 and 16. So, no, that's not the problem. I think you, Tunisians, you political elites, the transitional justice file comprises a global reform of the whole country and the whole sectors. We need also the contribution of the elite. The transitional justice file is a tremendous file, and its implementation can provide a solution for the economic problems that we are facing. It will help Tunisia come out of the cultural crisis it is witnessing, and will help the country solve the social problems that we are facing. That's why we are leading our fight and combating to say that implementing the fund is the best thing that can solve all these problems in order to obtain the confidence and trust of all Tunisians. The victims come from all Tunisian families. There is no single family in Tunisia which did not have a victim, and therefore the mechanism will be as follows. First of all, the presence of political will among the elites and among the state and the government. Two, the victims must be patient and must have the will to continue their fight and do not rely on anybody else, but they rely on themselves. I hear that, for example, people speaking about the president or the prime minister or the speaker being depicted as traitors of the revolution. You deserve the rulers that you have. This was said clearly by the Prophet. You will be ruled by those people you deserve. I think that the problem of injustices and the old practices by the police, but we respect the honorable people. There are honorable people, but in La Casbah, where the police exerted pressure on me, some people, policemen still defend the past and adhere to the past philosophy. And I know that the police have to obey orders. Orders are given to them by people who are against the transitional justice. And we need also to implement the outcomes of transitional justice. The third outcome, Tunisia can speed up we need to think about the sources and financial resources for the Dignity Fund. I think what we need here, the state needs to pump 10 million dinars in this fund, and this is binding upon the state, 10 billion, which are from the treasury, and we know that there are other resources awaiting the opening of this fund. People will make donations. They are just waiting for the fund to be opened. The present Prime Minister has to activate the committee that is the committee and appoint a chairman. And I think that Mr. Abdrazak should be the chair and the president of the committee which will govern the fund of dignity. And this is according to the law. It's not, you're not doing us favors. Article 5 of the law states that General Committee of the wounded and the martyrs shall deal or shall govern the fund of dignity. So why not Mr. Abdrazak can take care of this fund and manage it. They will decide, for example, the number of people. They will decide. They will examine the decisions about the mine basin. Thank you for your attention. There is a gap. And we'd like the government to make up for that gap. Oh, sir. The government. Yusuf Said is not with us. We'd like to speak about the mechanisms among the victims and their organizations. What are the mechanisms that can be used? Yusuf Said is no longer here. We cannot address him. Maybe we can give the floor to somebody else to speak about other outcomes and mechanisms.
So this time, within the framework of escalation, we were going to be here on the 10th of December. We should be hundreds or thousands, because our state only will abide by us, or to the pressure. Do you have other means aside from the march or from the protest? We need to communicate with the civil society organizations, and on this occasion I would like to congratulate you as ICTJ with your pertinent initiatives. The Amnesty International and many other CSOs and NGOs can help with lobbying and can help with putting pressure on the government. We really welcome anyone who would like to support us in all of this, the lawyers, the judges, etc. So we can do the strike for a long time. We need to understand what's happening before it's too late. Thank you. So once again, I ask the same question. Who wants to give another suggestion about the mechanisms of reparation? Go ahead. In terms of the lobbying mechanisms, the victims decided that the 10th of December is a very important date for us. We as victims and we as the National Committee for Victims of Oppression, we decided that the 10th of December will be an important day for us. We still can do more protests and more manifestations. We would like the government to really feel our pain. The last time we had a protest, we had a sit-in of 25 days. We withstood cold, hunger, etc., and we're still steadfast in our claims. They told us that they would resolve our problem by the 15th of October, and that the fund will be operationalized by then. But right now there is nothing that has been achieved, and now we can no longer believe in this government. We cannot believe what they say. And on the 10th of December, we are going to have an open sit-in, and we are not going to leave until we get our rights. You will not, I am saying to the government, you will not be able to give us a deadline this time and tell us to go home and that's it. No, this time we won't leave until we get our rights, because we no longer believe what they say, this government or any other government. Hopefully this will be the last of our manifestations. So all of the victims from all regions, we need to be in Kasbah on the 10th of December. This is the last resort. I would like to unify the full efforts and the leaderships. Some of them know me and some of them they don't know me, but I'd like to tell everyone to leave behind any animosity or any differences they have. We know that you all have your perspectives, you have your opinions, and that's why the government took advantage of this difference. But at the end of the day, we are in agreement. So this is the time after 10 years that we can come together and be one voice, and so we can convey our voice and we can get our rights. I would like to tell them that these 10 years have gone by and we have wasted 10 years because of the difference in our voices. I would like also to tell everyone to take heed of what is happening, and that another day I would blame you if my right is lost. We need to unify our voices. This is a message to the leaderships. On the 10th of December, we need all to be in the front lines, and and everyone needs to stand together. This is our last chance. Are we going to wait another 10 years? No, we're too old for that. Thank you. So let's just take some questions from the internet. Mr. Mohammed Ahmili says that Tunisia has been, the Tunisian government has been always polarizing, and that there have been a lot of reluctance to deal with this case, and that the parliament needs to take the responsibility of the non-implementation of the recommendations of TDC, and he calls for a manifestation in front of the UNHQ, and also to to stand together against this injustice perpetrated by the government. Thank you. Do you have any other additions? Thank you. Thank you very much. So in order to succeed, we need to have a good tactic, aside from the objectives and the strategy. Mr. Ahmed, I think that you're always talking in the name of the law. The law can be fair, and it can be an unfair law, and the laws, they are established by the legislative power, and it is enacted by some people, and then it can be changed by others. And if a law is not fair, then we do not respect it. But let's not make it so sacred. We do respect it, yes, but we respect the constitutional law, and the constitution needs to be liberalizing. And then the law itself, sometimes it can deprive people of their rights and their freedoms. The Constitution of '59, for instance, was not that open, and it violated freedoms of the people. There are laws that are demeaning and humiliating. Even in South Africa, in the apartheid, they had their laws, but their laws were not fair. So we do not respect all laws. And if laws are unfair, we should stand against that. So what I mean to say is that we should not be opposed to those who are in power, because they are the sons and daughters of our nation. There are people who are ready to make the constitution collapse. Even when we remember the Nazi movement, they had the same this blind obedience. But if we have a good discipline, then everyone could be organized. So we are not going to be submitted to that. Those people who are in power, tomorrow they can become mere citizens, and they would be subjected to the same unfairness we are facing today. So what do we need to do? So we need to have a mutual respect for our dignities, and to respect the different says and testimonies. Me, Haytham, Ahmed, we do not have the same perspectives, but we need to understand each other. We need to be tolerant with each other, and we need to understand and accept the differences between us. Yes, Haytham might be younger than me, but we are always learning, no matter what our age is. So the issue is that those in power, they need to abide by diplomacy and by sound measures of power. So there needs to be a respect to those who stand up to the government, for instance, and say you're wrong or you got this wrong, etc. So this is how it should be. This is the attitude that should exist. This is an attitude based on militancy, on struggle, and it's not related to submission, and it's not related to being subjected to others. We can only be free unless we respect the freedom of the others. I call upon everyone to move forward on the 10th of December and after that date as well. And as our colleague Lakeshi said yesterday, we're going to struggle forever, for life. But we need to know how to design our movements, and we need to have a strong will, and we need to be lucid, and we need to be wise, and we should not stand down whatever happens, because we are with the people, and we are not thinking about ourselves only. We're not being selfish. We are thinking about everyone. We need to take heed of that, as Mr. Abdelhamid said. So you will be. Everyone can be a ruler or a ruled person. So this is how things are. Thank you. That's very clear, Mr. Hamda. Yes. So we need to prevent corruption. We are not angels, all of us. We can make mistakes, but we should not make those in power guilty. We should be able to resist, and we should be able to prevent oppression and corruption. There are tactics used in this regard, and there are strategies, and most of all, we need to be unified and united. And we need to respect mutual differences, and we need to be accepting of criticism. And even if the opinions you receive are wrong, you should listen to them and then respond. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamda. Now I give the floor to Mr. Rida and then Mr. Almi for some last remarks. Thank you. Okay, so I will try to be concise. So, first of all, I have quickly introduced transitional justice, and I'm going to add a point to that. Transitional justice has been established for a purpose. Those who established it are the leaders of the world before 1945 and after that, in order to avoid the revolutionary justice or popular courts. And this, I'm not going to expand on this, but this happened in China, popular China, and in Iran recently, because after the revolution, the victors, they would do as they wish. So this is what they wanted to avoid. So if transitional justice was established for that purpose, then it would be stupid for those who are undertaking it to hamper it. So we, in the specialized chamber, and Mrs. Rawda Kharafi was with me, and the whole body, or the whole commission and the Court of Appeal, they all agreed. We are not here for retaliation or for revenge. We are here to get to know the truth. We are here to do the reparations. And if they apologize, then we would accept that apology. And transitional justice is aimed at moving forward and not staying in the past. So our organization is against capital punishment, for instance. And we are a part of a coalition against capital punishment. Even those who have committed violations against the victims of the revolution.
He may think that if I don't torture him, you know, even the crocodile tears, they did not like it. He said, take it or leave it, because he had a union of the policemen behind him. With regard to I think to make sure that we succeed in our program, we need to exert the pressure on the Prime Ministry. We need to act as individuals and as groups. We have to tell them we are fed up and we are mobilized and we are preparing ourselves not to make declaration or organize seminars or conferences or sessions. We are fed up. Now we are talking about taking to the street and demonstrating. And there are a lot of victims who are ready to take to the street and to organize demonstrations and sit-in. Now we have reached a stage of deadlock where we cannot wait anymore. Recently we have issued a declaration to respond to the Speaker of the Parliament, and we have made a list of things to do, such as asking for a meeting with them, and the last ultimate solution will be to take to the street and to organize the demonstration. Mr. Trudy, Mr. Macron, we have different visions, but there is an agreement now and an ultimate date, which is the 10th of December. The Tunisian streets and the Tunisian squares will be filled with the victims coming out to demonstrate from all the regions and from all the political orientations and channels. What I would like to call upon now, and to answer your question, Mr. Haytham, is first of all to call everybody to mobilize themselves. We have decided the place where the striking will take place, which is the Prime Ministry. Other people suggest the main street of Tunis. But we have to agree, we have to discuss where the striking is going to take place. Other people say it will take place in front of the theater. Then we head to the government. And others say, okay, we start at La Casbah and then move to the parliament. But I think, and this is very important, we need to coordinate our activities. We need to coordinate and take one stand, take one decision that we follow. So these demonstrations must result also in one single declaration on behalf of all the victims, which is called the declaration of the 10th of December, which is called "We the victims of the victims, we the representative of the martyrs." Then issue what follows. So we have to make a declaration. We have to make the declaration. It will be called the 10th of December declaration, but it needs to be drafted and prepared in advance before the 10th of December, and it will be distributed to distributed to everybody. We need also sort of pamphlets on which we write our emblems. Another point we need to incite also the proper authorities to attend, to egg them to be with us. But they have to receive the declaration in advance, and it can be given to the governor or to the place of authority or the headquarters of authority everywhere in Tunisia. There is a limited number, maybe 5 people or 6 people, and they take the declaration and they have to copy that it has been delivered. It has to be printed, and they will receive an acknowledgement of receipt. Last but not least,
I'd like to refer to something that is not instinctive, but it is a prospective thing that could be done in terms of prospecting the future. I've spent the last 10 years from 2000, 2011, I had spent that period of time, and I see something coming, and I have friends with whom I talk over the phone. We have the mining basin. We have Samir. He said, now that mining basin is over, but there will be other incidents coming up. There are statements written and published before 2010 that very soon the situation will be improved, that we will see the end of the tunnel. The second wave of the revolution is also coming up. This is not to tell you that I'm a knowledgeable man or an expert, but just to warn you to prepare yourselves. And I want to tell you, you talked about, you said we don't want leaderships. We are here because in Al-Qasba Square, I was going around the tents. People don't want politics. People want to unseat the system. This is the core of stupidity. That's a headless revolution. So why are you there in Al-Qasba when you don't want politics? So if you are going, there will be a lot of devils that will come up. If you want to eliminate something, you have to make sacrifices. So you have to really impose your requirements from politicians. I want to say that the representatives of the national interests that are in the revolutionary associations have sustained a setback. They are no longer on the scene. And this is the hint that I wanted to make just to keep you posted. And the last thing I would like to say, we agreed that you are going to speak less to Mr. You need to really join hands and to exhibit a high degree of unity. That is the best, if you like, approach to adopt. I give the floor to Mr. Elmi to conclude. Mr. Elmi will be the last to speak, and then we shall proceed to the closing comments. I would like to clarify something about the specialized criminal chambers. Why do we reject the dual litigation system? By experience, these people are really trying to get away with their violations. These people have really filled our heads with the institutions and the rule of law. But these folks never believed in the rule of law. As a testimony, they never as an evidence for that, they never came to the courts. Since 2012, at the military courts, we went to the appellate, to the upper appellate institutions, ending up in the specialized criminal chambers, and I never saw the executioners. With regards to the recommendations, the first recommendation is to unify the ranks of the victims. and I consider that this workshop has greatly contributed to conveying the voice of the victims, and it provided an opportunity to meet with many victims associations nationwide that we have maintained contact despite COVID-19. The second recommendation, by the same token, we have a meeting tomorrow with the Coalition of Transitional Justice. We have a meeting with the victims and the victims associations to unify our positions and to prepare for the 10th of December sit-in and protest. And some of the guidelines were provided by Mr. Rida. The other recommendation is to call upon the international organizations and the effective Tunisian associations to join the positions of the victims and to provide more support and advocacy. The objective is, as I said yesterday, we want a strong government, and as Ms. Shishi, the head of government, said, we want to enforce the law. We want the law to be enforced. The Law 53 of the year 2013. As a result of the enforcement of this law, we will see a list of victims, the opening of the account of the Dignity Fund, and the apology of the President, and the support and reinforcement of the specialized criminal chambers. In 20 minutes, in 20 seconds. That's a record, says the speaker. I was the shortest to speak. Just very, very concisely to clarify to everyone and to all the Tunisians, and we want you to understand this point. It's impossible to have another revolution because many said that there will be another revolution because when people took to the streets, they wanted bread without Ben Ali as a head. Now, for Qais Qaid, the current president, he has no powers. So who are you going to protest against? The government is independent. If you remove the government, then there will be no result. Some demands are irrelevant, and the government is trying to satisfy these demands. For the 10th of December, we want everyone to join in. Thank you all. I'd like to thank you for today's proceedings. For the last 2 days, I'd like to thank you for your patience, for your attendance. Thank you very much, and we shall soon meet on other workshops. Thank you very much.